I usually start with a little prayer of gratitude. So we'll just start with that. Thank you to Mother Divine, the overarching intelligence of the whole creation, the totality, which is both the source of everything in creation and the entire manifested field of creation as well. So thank you to that aspect of our universe for presence at today's webinar, live webinar on healing the earth through healing ourselves. Thank you to all the forms and expressions of that great overarching intelligence that can be found as forms of our own consciousness at the finest levels of our consciousness. All those intelligence, specified intelligences actually belong to us as our own being. But thank you to each one of you for bringing the coordination of that level of creation to the table today and to this group. Thank you to the ancestors of everyone present for the role they play in our healing. And their role now, I see it more as the means by which the work that's done on the level of consciousness can find its way to the superficial expression of the physiology. Because without those ancestors, we wouldn't have these bodies. So they're the ones that they kind of sit in the gap to a certain degree between the manifest and unmanifest. And then finally, thank you to the presence of God in each person watching today. Thank you for being yourselves and being here and having the intention and the wisdom to come together for the sake of our own healing and also for the sake of extending that healing to our beautiful, dear Mother Earth and environment. And as we do so today, may each person watching be empowered to master their own healing process and more learning how to engage the deeper levels of their own consciousness or their own being to create specified effects. And as we're doing so, may every area of creation benefit. Thank you all for being with me so much. All right, let's begin. So just like last night, I think it would be nice to start by, I was taking little reads on the group as people were coming in, but I think it would be nice to start by just taking a little look into the group today. It's a very fine group. Thank you all for being here. And what's happening as I'm looking into this group is I'm seeing areas where the intelligence and energy flows nicely and clearly, and other areas where it's a little bit more blocked up. So, of course, our intention is to harness the unbounded nature of the areas where the energy flows to address the areas where the energy is blocked up and create some more open flow for everybody. And so the first thing that we're looking at, interestingly, are earth chakras. Not surprised, but different from last night. Earth chakras and meridians. So we're looking into earth chakras and meridians. And first thing I'm seeing is a subtle energies, particularly in meridians that run between the -1, the earth chakras, I think of them as -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, like that. -1 and the root chakra of the body. So right at the base or foundation of the physiology. So we're just going in right there. And what I'm feeling is a certain amount of discordant feeling at that level. So we're going to clear certain feelings that are stuck in that area. And as that's happening, just not to analyze the dirt too much, because the better thing is just to enjoy the clean house. But the discordant feelings that tend to sit in that area are often shame and embarrassment and remorse. Also fear. And I'm actually mostly seeing fear clearing, so that's just as well to clear that out, because we don't need that. Right. Right. And it's interesting because I'm seeing the fear that's clearing out of that root chakra area also kind of has a reflected element up into the neck or throat area as well. So we're clearing there too. And I think what we're seeing there is a tendency for repressed expression. Some of it's ancestral, but it comes even into a deeper understanding of what's going on. And that is that all of us at this deepest level of our being, and this is, we started out last time with this, and it's good to go do it again for everybody. For those who are watching this video as the second in the series, then you get more layers of it. And for those who are watching first time, we do the first layer, but what's happening is a kind of awakening of a level of being which has been as if asleep, very, very ancient, very, very primordial expression of being, very, very intelligent, very capable level of our nature is being awakened. And this aspect of creation has the ability to bring in more of our potential to know anything and to do anything. And the reason this awakening I'm feeling very tenderly is because the potential is so great and it's so far beyond anything that our ancestors might have considered as the nature of human potential. Say for those of you who have ancestral roots that are going back, at least recently, all our ancestral roots go back to the same place, right? But in more modern times, those with East Indian or some Asian African roots had more of a sense, even Australian, native Australian, a sense of the more astounding potential of the human being. All right, so this is very nice to have this level of being awakening. And as this is happening, what I'm seeing is it's very much connected to any experiences of the past where we existed in physiologies which were subtler. We've all had varieties of physiology, some of them more dense and earthy, and some of them more subtle. And on Earth, we have this threefold structure of beings. On the surface of the Earth, like the skin of the Earth, we have human beings with our little tiny short-lived physiologies. And in the body, on the crust of the Earth, we have the beings we think of as devas, whose physiologies are more subtle and who live longer, and whose responsibility, like for us, are responsibilities for the surface. But for them, the responsibilities for that whole field of the crust of the Earth. And as you can imagine, our responsibilities and their responsibilities overlap a little bit, but their nature of their function is to work more on the level of manifesting forms like crystals and plants and movement of waters around the Earth and tectonic plates and some of these larger functions that we don't tend to think of as our responsibility as humans. And then deep within the Earth is the older, more abstract level physiologies, which are responsible for archiving all the information on Earth and relationship of Earth with her cosmic neighbors and things like the movement of the turning of the Earth on her axis and the movement around the sun and coordinating the different qualities of space that the Earth moves through as the sun moves towards in its trajectory through our galaxy. So one of the things that's happening is this awakening of this quality of consciousness in us, which is very ancient, is reactivating our relationship with those levels of Earth's intelligence. Because there have been times on Earth when human beings on the surface were not thinking of themselves in such isolated terms as they do today, that in fact, the human beings on the surface and the beings that were at the deeper levels of Earth's physiology. We're all well in coordination with each other. And there are spots on Earth where that happens. Just as an aside, or just as a point, our family traveled to Yellowstone National Park in the last year or 2 years. And when we did so, I noticed that that's a spot where it's almost like a sort of council chamber or meeting ground, where a lot of beings from many different layers of creation are present. And it's interesting because also in Yellowstone, you see a lot of species of animals that you don't tend to see spread out across the US anymore. And also people come from all over the world there. So it also has a very international flavor. So it definitely functions as a kind of a coordinating spot on Earth for beings at all levels. And there are many very amazing, interesting visitors to that area. Even you notice parts of Yellowstone look sort of, they look almost like outer space landscapes in places and things like that, making it kind of a comfortable place for people of all different backgrounds to come and enjoy the beauty. And I'm just asking, since that's come up, I'm sure there are other spots like that on Earth. And one of the points that we left off with last night in last night's webinar was working with time and space to coordinate our efforts to support the healing of Earth and the healing of ourselves with all the other people on Earth who are making the same efforts. So I think we're just going to start with that. And as I mentioned yesterday, as we were waking up this sort of very deep primordial level of the intelligence in our own physiology, one of those aspects of intelligence is the part of our consciousness which has mastery over time. So if we look at the range from abstract to concrete, we know that the concrete levels of the physiology are bound in space-time, but the abstract levels are not. And so it's down in this area that our concepts and perception of time can be much less restricted, constrained by preconceived ideas. And at that level, there is a field or an area of our consciousness which has complete understanding of all the laws of nature to do with time. And one of the things that happened last night, but it likes to happen again, is a coordination in the celestial level of the physiologies of everybody watching between the moment of the Big Bang, when all of us woke up and realized, oh, individuality exists, to the point of the collapse. And there's a kind of an integration or coordination that is capable of being activated as a byproduct of the fact that there is a consistent quality or element of light or consciousness that runs through the entire span of time. The entire span of the universe is connected through that initial intention of the singularity that was folded on itself to adore and know itself through its own self-expression. And that's a constant. It's like, you can think of it as a law of nature. It is consistent. And really, if we look deeply enough into any point or particle in creation, we will find that energy is sitting at the foundation of anything that manifests. So it is through that this coordination or awakening is taking place in the celestial level of everyone's physiologies. And what that does is it allows everyone watching, and everyone whoever will watch, access. And those who are just watching remotely, we also have remote viewers in on these webinars. Everyone has access then to that aspect of their being. And what it does is it's really shifting our conception of time, and it's also honing or refining our ability to perceive or appreciate time as a totality, as a collective function. Think of it like a fractal, but when we see it in its wholeness, then there are certain laws of nature that come into play which allow us to speed up time, slow down time, bend time, stop time. And everybody's getting that information and download on that right now. It comes out of this threefold structure, which I think I talked about fairly extensively last night, but it's good to review it. And that is, there's a relationship between our intention and desire and ability to flow love and the ability of the object of the love to reveal itself. Because when we flow our love into any area, that area, for instance, the area of the consciousness, which is capable of understanding and manipulating time, we flow our love into that area, our love and appreciation. What happens is that area of consciousness, which tends to stay kind of hidden, it opens up and reveals because there's trust. When the love is there, it allows for a feeling of trust. It's like a mutual agreement that we make with ourselves that, I will cherish you, I will honor you, I will take care of you. And that part of the being says, okay, then I trust and I will open myself up and I will show you what I'm capable of doing here. So love and trust and appreciation, they work together in those self-referral loops. And that's all we're really doing in this work to heal ourselves, to heal Mother Earth, is we're creating loops of consciousness folding back on itself. And as it does so, there's a reflective element. For example, if we flow our love into the part of our consciousness that is capable of understanding time in its totality, then we also, through that interaction, can trust that part of our own consciousness to function for us. So if that part of consciousness, if and when that part of consciousness rises up and wants to create an effect that will be beneficial, then we, instead of going, oh, this is something I'm not familiar with, it, I don't know what it is, I mistrust it, I feel afraid, I don't think I want to go in that direction. Instead, being can just go, oh, it's you. Oh, it's me. Oh, this is a part of me. And just embrace whatever that part of me wants to do, whatever that part of the being wants to do. Let's turn that around and look at Mother Earth just for a minute, because this is about healing Mother Earth. And she also has a long history, right? She started out at the beginnings of creation just like we did, as zillions and zillions of dust particles, or just atoms in the beginning, or parts of atoms in the beginning, photons, little pieces, and then coming together into a totality or wholeness that we think of as Mother Earth. Oh, and what I'm feeling as our attention flows toward Mother Earth is I'm feeling such a tender appreciation of Mother Earth in the hearts of everyone watching this video. And of course, every being in creation deeply appreciates our love as the highest, most valuable commodity in the universe. And so as our love flows toward the earth, her love flows back to us. And again, just like yesterday, it's very sweet. I'm feeling a kind of a tingling moving up through those earth chakras and into the root chakra of the physiology and up into the body itself, a very sweet, tingly energy coming up from Mother Earth in her response, her very amazingly sensitive response to the flow of our love into her being. I'm sure she's not used to people as a group, right? As a group, we're sending our love into her being. And in her wholeness, she sends her love back. And what I'm seeing with this energy that's coming back up through Mother Earth, and I just need to make this note that in the past, I've often seen energies coming up through Mother Earth that are very stable and integrating very strong, solid energies, creating stability in the physiology. But this quality of light that seems to come from her when we give her our love collectively like this is a very light, delicate energy. That it has, as I mentioned, tingly or sparkly kind of quality that seems to be communicating to our physiologies at, I'm asking, cellular, subcellular, molecular, atomic, subatomic, atomic, as deep as the atomic level of the physiology. I tend to divide that range just for those of you who are intellectually understanding, looking at the whole body and then limbs. We can look at organs, tissues, cells, subcellular levels, molecular levels, subatomic 1, subatomic 2. But at the atomic level, there is a coordination or an integration of the love of Mother Earth with our physiologies. And what that means is it feels as if we've got that mirror chamber effect going on, and that the atoms in our body are mirroring back to Mother Earth the qualities of her intelligence and her wisdom and her consciousness. And as that's happening, it is definitely upgrading the intelligence in our physiologies. And one of the things that I see happening as this effect occurs is an awakening of Earth memories. There actually have been many times on Earth where very sweet things happened. I have a very dear friend who once said to me, there's so many good, beautiful things happening on Earth at every moment that we can never know them all. So the end of her sentence was that we can just pick and choose, but we may as well put our attention on the good that's happening, because it's the same with the things that are negative happening. You know, we can't know every horrible thing that's happening, but we have a choice. We always have a choice of where to direct our attention. And what I'm seeing happening is a connection between this moment, as this love is flowing between us and Mother Earth, and so many innumerable moments throughout Earth's history where a flow of love was coordinating between individuals and Earth. And of course, we all know that there have been times in the past where humanity as a collective was living a little closer to the Earth, you know, houses with dirt floors and more out in nature and so forth, awake and asleep with the cycles of light and dark and so forth. So no such thing as rubber soles back in the day. So I'm still feeling a lot of love and a lot of awakening occurring in the physiologies. And I'm also seeing right now an expansion in people's heart chakras, which is great, because part of the story of giving and receiving love, whether it's with individuals or with something as great and expanded as the earth on which we live, is that the more the flow of love rolls back and forth between the lover and the beloved, the more that love refines and cultivates itself into the forms that are more luscious, more desirable, more relevant in the present moment. And the other thing is that by choosing to give the quality and kind of love that we would give to Mother Earth, it gives our hearts an opportunity to expand into functioning in a way that they may not normally function, because in the love of family, or the love of teacher-student, or the love of lovers, or the kind of relationships we have with people, the heart flows in specific ways, but to love the earth is a different kind of way. And I'm also feeling in this group a really big upliftment or expansion of energy coming forward, which is really nice. It's very beautiful, because it takes a lot of energy to manifest specific changes or to manifest specific effects on the surface of life. And so that increased energy, I see it as a byproduct of the law of nature of reflection. As we move into any specific area with intention, in this case, flowing of love to Mother Earth, then that flow bounces off of Earth, bounces off of us like that, like a mirror that's reflecting back and forth. And when the flow of reflection goes to infinite, then the energy required to allow that expression to manifest at the surface of life is sufficient. And it happens. There's a Sanskrit word, alankara, and alankara means literally to make sufficient. And alankara is also the same word used for jewelry. It's also the same word used for the embellishments that are put on melodies in Indian music. East Indian music. Alankara. So it means like a decoration, sort of. So in order to make something sufficient, it's as if it becomes decorated. And as that reflection goes back and forth and it starts to roll to infinite value, what happens is an effect that's kind of like a fractal. And our Earth is kind of like a fractal too. The different shapes, the shapes of the mountains are reflected in the shapes of the clouds and so forth, and the shapes that are made in the waves in the water and everything. So the alankaras are the finer, those little finer, tiny turns. Arabesque is a word, I think, in Arabic, which kind of means the same thing. It's like a little curly turn or something like that, that is like a decoration. And so it's interesting that we're looking at that, because what we want to do is, what I see happening is a lot of the work that's being done in the group today, and I'm doing my best to describe to everybody what's happening, but there is a lot going on, has to do with healing for the heart. And it's basic. When an intelligence, a very deep, ancient intelligence, awakens within our being, it opens a big range of knowledge. It's like a big archive of knowledge has opened up for all of us. And knowledge, it's our habit to tend to address knowledge from more of an intellectual point of view and want to go in and kind of analyze it, look at it from different ways, play with it. And the playing is more of a heart value. It's more of a feeling heart value. But in the end, all the knowledge that comes forth, all the knowledge that we're working with, is here specifically as a means of augmenting the intentions of the heart. So as we're working with consciousness and we're learning how to fold consciousness back on itself to make specific effects, really this is, think of it like energetic Tai Chi or something. This is moving feeling. We're moving feeling. I used to teach dance, and I used to say that dance was emotion in motion, just as music is the language of feeling. So dance is the motion of feeling. And we can think of it as a kind of internal dance, or a dance in the field of consciousness. Very nice. And one of the things that's happening is I'm seeing meridians running from the causal celestial levels of the physiology up through the subtle bodies and up into the denser levels of the physiology. And these meridians are starting to create a kind of a stability. And I like that because, again, stability is one of the qualities that I tend to associate with Earth. We all tend to solid, like a rock, right? Like a rock. And we want that. We want stability in the flow of intelligence from the subtle levels of the being up through the denser levels of the being, so that the conscious mind can start to really appreciate and utilize the potential that's sitting at the deeper levels. Solid. And I'm just watching that happen. And I'm just looking at Earth also. And I'm asking, because I know the Earth has certain areas that feel also a little less stable. There are delicate elements like the balance of CO2 on Earth has this influence on the temperature of the oceans and the temperatures on the lands. And it's fairly delicate. I was watching a video of Neil deGrasse Tyson describing the process of global warming and how it just comes down to a matter of a few degrees, like 3 or 4 degrees can make the difference between the tipping point for Earth or not. So we want to see in those tender, these deep areas are very powerful, but they're also super, super tender. Like, we use the word sometimes laws of nature. And if we go out in nature, there are beings like the birds and the squirrels and if we just go pounding outside with our big boots on, they just run away. But if one goes out and addresses them tenderly, they will come. Mm-hmm. And so in that same way, we want to allow the Earth to cultivate that tender relationship with her own temperatures and our ability to support actions that help keep everything balanced temperature-wise. We have a lot more influence over the weather, temperatures, precipitation than we may think. Again, these laws of nature. Now we can say, well, healing the earth is like healing ourselves. We can say, well, if I take this herb, that's going to affect my liver. Or if I undergo this process or procedure, that's going to heal my skin, or whatever, the different things. But all these things that we do on the surface are really just giving consciousness permission to do the healing. Because consciousness heals. The actual powder, or if we put some cream on the face, it isn't the cream that heals. It isn't the oil that heals. It is consciousness being given permission to heal. We put the oil, and then it's like it's a folding consciousness back on itself. I'm putting the oil on because I'm talking to my skin. My consciousness is talking to itself, consciousness through my hand and through the oil, because the oil's consciousness too are talking to the skin and giving the skin permission to do the healing that it wants to do, or that it's capable of doing. It's like it wakes up or activates the part of the self that heals. Remember from one of our last webinars, the Library of Congress holds over 34,000 clinically tested records of people healing themselves with nothing, with sugar water and with sugar pills and with imaginary surgeries. Yeah, placebo surgeries, they do those. And like they pretend to do surgery on someone, and then the person comes out of the surgery and they're healed and their big tumor is gone and their consciousness did it. So we can say, well, if we just plant more trees and if we do this and that, and of course, it doesn't hurt to plant a tree. Planting a tree is good, and if that's what it takes to get the consciousness to move properly, then so be it. But what I'm presenting here is that we do it from the level of consciousness. And then a bunch of Boy Scouts go out and plant the trees. Or whoever. I support the Boy Scouts. In the work we're doing here, we can certainly use it for certain kinds of healings. Let us take, for example, the heart. If we put our attention, our conscious mind attention on our heart right now, we can feel our heart area, feel the heart chakra. What's happening is the consciousness of the being, which is in its nature expanded and unbounded, is focusing to a point, which is the heart. And as we do so, as we put attention on the heart, the nature of the heart is that it turns all energy to love. So as we put attention on the heart, what happens is we start to feel an increase of the love in the heart. And as the feeling of love in the heart increases, it is naturally, spontaneously nourishing the heart itself, because the heart is both the lover and the beloved. And same with the exercise that we did before, where we go in and we give ourselves a big hug, right? That the self is both the lover and the beloved. The truth is that the nature of consciousness is to reflect itself at every point in creation. So anytime one part of oneself reflects on another part of the self, say we do a reflection between the heart and the mind, and what happens when the heart looks at the mind and the mind looks at the heart is all these meridians that run between the heart and mind open, and they have a nourishing effect on each other. The heart nourishes the mind with love, but the mind nourishes the heart with intelligence and capability, and then both are uplifted. So it is possible to make little loops, little self-referral loops of consciousness too. What is the relationship between Mother Divine and Mother Earth? Oh, that's a beautiful question. Relationship between Mother Divine and Mother Earth is that Mother Divine is the overseer of the entire field of all creation, both the whole unmanifest field of creation and the whole manifest field of creation. So all that is within her scope. And Earth is a being. Earth is an entity, is alive, is a life force. There's a life force, which is Mother Earth. And that life force, or that life presence, which is Mother Earth, is associated with the body that we think of as this planet. And of course, all beings in creation, ourselves included, all have access to the source of creation. And we all have access to the entire universe. So there is a level of every being which encompasses or is comprised of that mother of the whole creation. We are all that. We are all this. Like, for example, if the conscious mind can comprehend a mother divine of all creation, which includes everything that's unmanifest and everything that's manifest, then that means that our conscious mind is able to contain that concept. And in containing that concept, basically that means that that aspect of creation is contained within us. Now, of course, Mother Divine expresses, if I don't know about a planet that's a zillion light years away or something, a billion light years away, and I don't know about that planet, and I don't know what's happening on that planet, and there are beings on that planet that don't know about me, then we could say that even if I am in touch with the source of all creation, everything that exists, am I really at that status of the big God of all creation? And I would say that essentially we are all points. You could think of us as points in the star of that being of all creation. I hope that helps answer your question. It's a very beautiful question. And again, I really always appreciate your questions because they're very carefully considered. Shall we ask Mother Earth what she needs from us? Yes. And great question, how are we going to shift human consciousness regarding care for the environment without coming so close to its destruction? Oh, this is a great question. It's as if we are heading for a fine line and most humans refuse to see it. Does she have a conscious plan for her being? And can we help turn around our misuse of her? Thank you so much, Anonymous, for this wonderful on-topic question. It's fabulous. Absolutely right. So, yes, there are two camps that I'm seeing in human thinking. One camp is, well, maybe there are more than two, but for those who are aware that things are moving in an unhealthy direction for Mother Earth, there are two camps. One camp is, what can we do right now to try to just turn things around, turn things back into a safer space for Mother Earth? And the other question is, the other camp is, how can we as quickly as possible start colonizing Mars so that whatever happens on Mother Earth is irrelevant, that we can just go somewhere else and just live somewhere else. We need to expand our technology, our science and technology fields, and we need to get people, off Earth, and we need more options for humanity. So I don't consider it my place to judge either of these two views. And then, of course, there's the other one that you pointed out in the question, which is people who are just like oblivious, and they're just like, whatever, So in these two camps, my feeling is that both are important, but this is from the level of humanity. I'm looking back into the group and I'm feeling a really good energy coming forth right now. So what we need to do is very simple. We're just going to turn this question, it's a really good question, we're going to turn it around as a collective and offer it reflected into Mother Earth. So we'll just take a moment and reflect this question of, what do you need, Ma? What can we do for you? How can we support you? How can we help you on all levels of our capability as humans, as sentient beings, to bring you back into your structure and your strength and back off from that fine line of destruction? So the first answer coming back from Mother Earth, and this one came up last night as well, is that we have to remember she is so big. She is so big that many times through her history, the life forces, the life forms on Earth had gotten to the point that they were not supporting her very well. And she just wiped everything out and started back at zero. She can do that. She's that big. And if she has to do it, then she'll do that. So in the long run of her story, it's not really that much of a problem. If she needs to wipe everything out entirely 100% and go back to zero, she can just do that. And for her, a billion years or many, many millions and millions of years, hundreds of millions of years of rebuilding, is just a small part of her life. It's just a segment of her life. It's just an epoch in her life. For us, we would have to find a new home probably. But that said, we can see now how incredibly tenderly she treats us, because the destructive forces of Mother Nature on Earth, like tsunamis and earthquakes and hurricanes and things like that, they don't have a total wiping out effect. She'll go and clean out in some area. She'll go do her work in some area like that, but it's not enough to destroy humanity as a whole by any means. So she's been very, very delicate and very tender with us, actually, for a long time. But I'm looking. So the first thing I'm feeling is it's that heat. The heat is not in a comfortable place. And so we need to look into our own physiologies. Remember, just as we have intelligence in ourselves that oversee the flow of time, we also have intelligences that oversee the flow of heat. We can think of the Lord of Time or the Lord of Fire in the body. We have heat and fire in our own physiologies. So we're going into our physiologies and we're examining it as it is reflected, because we're the mirrors, right? In order for us to know how to help her, we need to look into our own mirror, clean out our own mirror, and see what needs to be done to support our own physiologies, because ultimately we are really extensions of that great wholeness of creation. And as we heal ourselves, we heal her too. And she can help give us some guidance too. So what I'm seeing is our potential and capability to work with the heat in the physiology is again much greater than we have given ourselves credit for, or that our ancestors ever imagined. So gently with this, we're going back through and we're working with we're doing some ancestral work. And you're probably saying, but what does doing ancestral work for us have to do with Mother Earth? But the bottom line is, in order for us to actually be able to work intelligently with Mother Earth, we need to upgrade our capabilities. And also, as we heal ourselves, we reflect or radiate a frequency of energy through our own physiologies and through our own consciousness, which has a naturally healing effect on the environment. You are so much more powerful. We are so much more powerful than we think we are, if that makes sense. We can control. Oh, beautiful. We can control. And I think this is going to go into the next question as well. We can control the weather patterns, for example. And we're already controlling the weather patterns with our consciousness. When we're happy, the weather tends to be sunnier. And when we're sad, the weather tends to bring on the rains. We don't tend to think in terms of our own personal individual responsibility in those areas, but each one of us contributes collectively to the weather patterns in our area. So we're going ancestrally for a moment. And we're talking to the heat in the physiologies of our ancestors. And one of the things that happened was misguided or misrepresented flow of heat. That a lot of times the heat would come out in interpretations or misrepresentations of situations and circumstances taking place, and therefore like justification for anger, justification for abusive behavior and things like that. So that, and also because of long history on the earth of human alcoholic consumption, because alcohol also, it's heat in the body, but it's a little bit misdirected heat. It's not heat that's moving through the physiology in a way that promotes well-being or health. It's moving as a toxin in the physiology. So we have this happening for Mother Earth, and we have this happening in our own physiologies, at least if we're not, hopefully not partaking of alcohol at this time, that our ancestors. So what I'm seeing happening is we're looking at the element of heat as a totality, and following it back to its source, the source of creation, pure being, pure consciousness. And as that's happening, and it's interesting, the whole building, I don't know if you guys just heard that, but the building, the whole roof of the building I'm in just went crack, 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 crack. It's like weather. It's like a weather pattern, right? The consciousness did that expanse, and then the whole building went crack, crack, crack. It's okay. Little fine threads. So what's happening there has to do with, and again, as I was saying, it feels like this wants to move into the next question. The dear, exceedingly wonderful lady who's asking the next question is sort of, she's anticipating the direction that we're taking this. And that is, she's asking, how can we best work with the fairy and Davic realms to heal the earth? I love that question. So remember, we are the Davic and fairy realms. We are those realms. When we think of devas and we think of fairies, such a sweet feeling, right? Such a sweet, precious, adorable, innocent, playful quality of consciousness that we think of these areas of creation. And yet, know that if you can comprehend those areas on the level of feeling, you can think of a fairy and you can think of a sweet little elemental of creation, then at that same time, all what you're doing is you're seeing an aspect of your own being. And we think of fairies and devas as being kind of little and light and sort of delicate, but the reality is they are actually, that's like one side of the part of our own consciousness, which is also extremely ancient and extremely powerful. So at the same time, that quality of intelligence is very light and delicate. It also has an eternal, because those physiologies, at that level, our physiologies are so much less physical that they last longer. So it's a part of the physiology that is more Davic-like, that is more like angels or fairies or so. That part of the physiology lasts longer, even when the physical form has done its duty and it goes back to the earth. That part still exists. That's why we think of sometimes when people that we love pass on as them having wings and being like angels, because that's the part of their physiology that's still present. It lasts longer. It's more invincible. And yes, that part of the physiology resonates at a frequency which is akin to the energies that are in the crust area of Mother Earth. And so by activating or awakening that part of our own consciousness, merely, it's like invoking. Just by putting your attention on that part of yourself, you wake up that part of yourself. And again, when there's love and trust, that part is easily harnessed to produce whatever specific effects are desired or required. And as we wake up as a group, as we wake up this part of ourself, what happens is we start to resonate or hum at the same frequency as those aspects of Mother Earth, which are responsible for her healing and well-being. And so, you know, this, I'm trying not to say names, I'm really tempted, but this great question is a lead. It's a lead-in for us to be able to address this heat in the Earth's atmosphere, in the Earth's crust, in the Earth's body, and also in our own physiologies, and to help kind of clear out some of that misappropriated heat in the physiology that ended up being experienced more like a toxin in the physiology than something that was useful. So we can, as a group, that aspect of the self activating and aligning with that aspect of Mother Earth's intelligence. So it's like, it's a way of expanding our own capability or potential, right? Because when we're humming in tune, think of it like a chorus, and everybody in the chorus is singing the same notes, or they're singing notes that coordinate nicely with each other, that work nicely with each other. Those Davic elements of our own physiology are like the hum of our own physiology, only at a much, much higher frequency. So it's, even in our Davic forms, we're still us, if that makes sense. Just, it's like humming it at a higher octave or something like that. The physical body hums at its octave, and then the Davic level hums at its octave, but these notes are part of the same symphony. And what we want to do is we want to look at that misappropriated heat. Sorry, we keep getting back to that. And I'm just asking it, I'm not telling it which way it wants to go, because Earth knows which way it needs to go. And it also, within the archive of the ancestors, our DNA, also our being knows which way that heat needs to go. So what I'm feeling is an impulse from the group, which is flowing forth, of a kind of an innocent wave of love or devotion. It feels like devotion. The Davic levels of the physiology are saying, at your service. We're at your service to do whatever you need to do. And what happens is the heart flows. The heart flows in an impulse of love, which sets the tone or determines the course or direction of the flow of energy to help balance that heat. Good job, everybody. Once the direction has been identified and the goal has been determined, then we just let go. No intention, the intention is to give. If there's any intention, it is to just give of ourselves as it needs to be given. In this case, it's our love and our intelligence working together through the Davic structures of our physiology and therefore through the Davic structures of Mother Earth's physiology. There we go. And lots of energy starts to move. Now, in order for the energy to move efficiently and unrestricted, there's a part of each one of us that just surrenders to the flow of that energy. Just let it do what it wants to do. If the mind grips too tightly, I want it to heal this way or I want it to go that way. Not that you guys are, but anyway, just as a principle, because this is so useful in all areas of healing, that if the mind grips it, then we disallow for the effect to exceed our expectations. So as the cooling starts to take place and the reappropriation of the heat so that it's more balanced and so that the heat is where it needs to be in order to support the well-being of Mother Earth, and also for the ancestors where it needs to be to support the purification and the healing of their physiologies and their mentalities, their psychologies. Yeah, that's good. There we go. And we let go. The letting go is like moving into the river of healing. That when you're in the middle of the river, your muscles can relax a little bit and the flow of the river takes over, natural law takes over, and it takes, thank you, there it goes. It takes the intention back to its source. When it takes the intention, again, it's consciousness folding back. It folds back to the source of creation. When it does that, then the effect is instantaneous and complete. So I'm just checking with Mother Earth how she feels about that, and if it's easy, and if it's what she wanted. If it's what she wanted. She's saying that especially there's been a lot of heat in the ocean, and it's been making our brothers and sisters, or the beings, the great beings who live in the ocean, and so the Davic levels of the ocean. And of course, the ocean itself is like a great giant deva skin around the surface of the earth. There's a great motherly force of intelligence or consciousness, which is our ocean. So we're going to Mother Ocean now in the field of consciousness. And we're awakening at that level of our own consciousness. So first we were thinking of how do we activate up kind of the Davic or fairy level of our consciousness, which is capable of doing a certain amount of good. But when we get to the ocean, it's more in the direction of these very deep primordial intelligences of creation. It's very, very vast. I mean, there's some planets, they're like even moons in our solar system that are just water. I understand also, I think I was looking over my son's shoulder when he was reading Reddit, there's like a giant underground oceans on Earth as well. Big, like a third of the underground area of Mother Earth is also ocean under the surface. Cool, huh? full of knowledge and mystery. And when we're working with the waters, we're working with pure emotion, basically, because waters flow the way emotions flow. So here is the infusion of that light. Remember at the beginning of the session, there was this integration with this celestial level of physiology and this beautiful, unstoppable, unquenchable light, which was the flow of the singularity to adore itself through its own self-expression. That light is interfacing with the waters of Mother Earth and also the waters of our own physiologies. There we go. And I'm just watching it. It's like that light and the waters are sort of flowing together in coordination. I'm seeing definitely an increase of energy and light, like a very subtle quality of light existing in the waters, flowing through the waters. Oh, and what I'm seeing is a releasing of certain discordant feelings. Mostly it looks like grief, but there are other feelings as well, and a lot of forgiveness is coming in. This is definitely affecting the circulatory systems of everyone watching. And we just finished that activation for the ancestors in the last part where we're working with the heat. So that meant modification or changing, upgrading in the DNA, the molecular level of everyone's physiology. That upgrading was necessary first so that the heat will be appropriated through the physiology in the highest and best possible, the healthiest possible way. And then now with the waters, oh, I see. So that light at the beginning of the universe has an element of heat associated with it. And what's happened up till now is the heat, instead of staying in that area where it can be really useful and especially powerful in allowing manifestation to occur, allowing us to manifest our desires or what we need to do, it had been getting up more into certain superficial areas and misinterpreted as negativity of various kinds. And so what's happening is it's cooling back to that original light, which you can think of, if you think of the Eastern light, it's like that when the sun comes up in the east, it's got that nice, cooling, very sort of fresh quality of light. That is, as that's moving through the waters of Mother Earth's oceans, it's having a very sort of soothing and uplifting effect for all the beings in the oceans, also nourishing. It nourishes their beings at deeper levels. And some of them also were ready to, you know, always so much respect, right, for these beings who live such a different existence from us. They needed this because they are also some of the big workers and the supporters of balance on Earth. We mustn't forget them, you know, when we're thinking about the devas and the, you know, the realms of finer beings on Earth. We have to remember that some of the greatest light workers, some of the greatest supporters of the well-being of Mother Earth reside in the oceans. Very precious. And we are now receiving information from them based on the work that they have been doing. So I will do my best to describe it in human terms, in human language. I read the language of music. So hopefully this is going to help me be a good interpreter here. They say they've been working through the field of time for a long time. And that balance isn't a matter of keeping things static. That balance is a matter of changing in a harmonious way with the constant flow of evolution that's taking place on Earth. So because they're working through time, they're saying that it's not that we're trying to reproduce or recreate the way Earth was before, like say 3,500 years ago was the example they gave. That we're not trying to reproduce the way Earth was then. What we're trying to do is, what we're doing is we are creating constant modification in the field of our consciousness in order to accommodate the transformational changes which are taking place at an accelerated pace on Earth right now. So I'm asking them, what do we need to do then on the level of our consciousness to perpetuate healthy, accelerated change in order to continue to be a support system for the work they're doing and for the work that's taking place presently at this time on Earth. They're saying that they're showing the system of nodes and meridians that run, energy meridians that run around the Earth. And they're saying that there are ways to utilize the coherence that is already present in this network of intelligences running through Mother Earth to access the potential that's in that network more intelligently than we have been. And one of the things that they are saying is that it is, again, it's coming back to the flow of the heart, our ability to produce impulses of love, which have specific energy frequencies that coordinate with the energy frequencies at the various nodes or points of intensity, vortexes. I don't know, people give them different names, but basically what it is, it's kind of like a system, like a net, an energetic net that's around the Earth. And where the pieces of the net cross each other, there are like significant points. And that it's in those points, and they're saying that traveling to points, like I mentioned Yellowstone earlier, traveling to points is not that necessary, that it's more important that our hearts radiate a particular frequency of energy, that our beings radiate in a particular frequency which is aligned with the energy in those points. So even if we're far distant from them, it doesn't matter, because on the level of consciousness, we exist everywhere. So we can activate specific points with our consciousness merely by putting our attention on them. And I know where we are in Fairfield. I've looked at maps of these nets, and I know where we are here in Fairfield, Iowa. We're actually sitting on one of the lines. There's a node off the coast of Florida, and there's one off the coast of Vancouver, and there's a line that runs right between them. And it seems to, and of course the maps I've seen haven't been super specific, but it does seem to be running right through this area of Iowa, which is good. And we also know, if anybody's familiar with cymatics, we know that everywhere there's a ley line, there's a potential for more nodes to appear. I'm just letting that sink in for a minute and see if the message, the way it came as a visual form to me of us laying our hearts down on the earth like that. And I don't think that it necessarily means going outside and laying down in the dirt. I don't think we have to do that. It seemed more metaphoric to me, that what we do is we allow the feeling of the love in the heart to kind of fold into the earth, and specifically if we fold it in to those points. And so I'm asking them, okay, so are there any specific points where we need to fold our love in, because we're powerful as this group? Is there a spot where we need to fold our love in that would be useful or especially helpful to Earth at this time? And asking Mother Earth what she likes. So the first thing that came up was that there is a node in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which is a really good spot. But then when I asked Mother Earth what she wanted, see, because we can't go lay down on that spot anyway, right? That's in the middle of the ocean. She was saying we can activate all the nodes at the same time. She said that our love especially, and she's saying especially when we're working in a group like that, each one of us is resonating at a slightly different frequency. And as a result, we each have energy frequencies that are more attuned to certain nodes than others. And we kind of resonate with certain ones more than others. So as a collective, we can produce an effect. And again, this comes from this gift that she gave us at the beginning of this webinar and at the beginning of the last webinar, where this really yummy, tingly, very light energy came into our physiologies. That energy really activated the bodies at a very deep level, and it allows our intelligence, the intelligence of our consciousness, to specify as it moves through our physiologies, so that as individuals in our own bodies, but also as a group, we're able to fold our consciousness back on itself in very intelligent, like with discrimination. We're able to fold it in with good discrimination. So I'm just feeling again in the hearts. And everybody should know, who watched the last webinar as well, that between these two webinars, this Dorothy being found herself doing a lot of work for our hearts, clearing off all kinds of fear and grief and sorrow and feelings of unworthiness, all those qualities. Just so grateful to all of you for this work. I'm feeling big rising waves of love now starting to work their way out through the group, in, should I say in or should I say out? Hard to say, because it's kind of like it pours, the different pieces they fold over and pour into each other, and the ones that were bigger become the ones that are smaller and so forth at that fine level of creation. But the waves of love are really expansive right now, and they're just rippling out to the whole of Mother Earth. We have a choice of how we focus our attention. And if we keep the directional flow of the intention always towards progressively supporting the evolution, this accelerated transformation of evolution on Earth, and then just letting go of the results, just saying, okay, nature, I'm giving you my all, I'm giving you everything I have, and you use it in the way that is best, then the result will be beyond our expectations. And we are doing that now. And we are structuring a very beautiful fall and a very healthy winter for our continents. Very healthy winter with the right amount of coldness and the right amount of movement of air, the right amount of precipitation to give rise to very healthy effects in the land and healthy effects in people's thinking. Again, some of this work that's being done for the heart, a lot of heart healing is taking place right now, is also being done for our ancestors. And I just glanced down at the time, everybody, and I see that we've come to our hour and 15 minutes. So I'm really glad that we're ending on this really uplifted note. And as this folds back into Mother Earth, you should know that her love is going to keep pouring into you. It is more of a joy to give our love to others than it is to even receive it. Because when you give your love, your heart feels the love, right? So it's the same for Earth. It is such a joy for Mother Earth to flow that amazing, sparkling energy into our beings, which uplifts us and allows us to be better lovers of her, better caretakers of her, better caretakers of each other and ourselves as well. So we all know that when we can receive graciously, it makes the act of giving even more satisfying and wonderful. So I offer you that whenever you feel those energies flowing back and forth, you're the mirror and she's the mirror. And when the energies are flowing back and forth from your heart to Mother Earth, that taking the time to appreciate the gift that she gives makes it all the more luscious and sweet and wonderful for her. And I'm sure that there are a lot more directions that we can go in this field. The work that we've done today, I think we just kind of crack the nut open just a little bit to see what's happening, but there's a lot more that can be done. And so I just want you to know, my husband and I have been discussing the potential of these sessions and might think about ways we can open them to larger venues in the future. Maybe do some kind of live streaming, like a free earth healing webinar on YouTube or something like that. So anyway, we're playing with different ideas just to let you know. And I just want to take this last moment to thank everyone for joining me this morning. We did a huge amount of work for ourselves, for our ancestors, for our physiologies, and the work that we did for Mother Earth I know is deeply appreciated. And so may you enjoy the effects of today's webinar, and may you enjoy watching the other one that we did last night too. And I just am so grateful. I'm so grateful to the whole field of creation, to all of you are such amazing people, and for my dear friend on the West Coast who suggested this webinar because it was a fabulous idea. The next webinar will be on weight loss, and the webinar after that, that's next week, and then the one after that, 2 weeks after that, is on relationships again. And we'll also be taking a look at intimacy and have some surprises in store for everybody. So that should be interesting. Then in November, we'll go into another webinar on health and another webinar on manifesting. So that's our lineup, even though the November webinars aren't up online yet. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me. See you soon. Bye. Thank you.